Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleague Jim Patterson. Jim will be today's presenter and discuss the topic of unleashing the power of AI-enabled project portfolio management with OnePlan's integration capabilities. This webinar is a new addition to our series of adaptive webinars, so if you enjoy this video, feel free to watch the others we have available on our channel and look towards the next installment, which we'll be releasing soon. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thanks, Robert. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Today's project and portfolio management landscape is breeding a lot of changes and the necessity for a lot of modification to the way we do things. And two of those things we're going to cover today. One is overall integration capabilities to interconnect with the systems and the tools that we need to in order to flush out and fulfill a complete holistic project and portfolio management solution. And also the leveraging the use of generative AI such that we can augment our own human capabilities to do things that we didn't even think possible before, and just move the ball forward in those areas. So let's get started with this concept today. So let's start from the beginning with traditional project and portfolio management, where we've been for the last decades. And it really has done a nice job for organizations. It's advanced the capabilities and the effectiveness of organizations significantly in these areas. It's really given us clarity and consistency to project management activities where they didn't exist before. It helps us define and pursue clearer objectives and march to a common drummer in a lot of cases. It also makes planning and operations more realistic and complete because we have solutions that have schedules and resource plans and a variety of other things that help optimize the allocation of those resources across those things, and actually help improve the quality of deliverables by having more control and more purpose, and let's just say more responsiveness within our hands to the deliverables that we have to provide. And then the better visibility and reporting, be able to get all this stuff into a common forum such that we can provide leadership and others the reporting and the information they need so that they can adjust and make good decisions and have good decision support along the way. Now, that being said, the world keeps moving forward. And, it's not the traditional waterfall PPM that we used to know, years ago. While that still exists and waterfall is still in a lot of places and appropriate for a lot of different types of projects, Agile is growing and it keeps increasing, it seems, every year. And people are also using Agile variants. There's different flavors of Agile that people are using, as well as hybrid methodologies that include maybe a combination of both waterfall and hybrid. And even then, people are picking one or more of these options and then cherry picking just the pieces that they want and have personalized cherry pick versions of these things. Meaning that harnessing this into a common, forum becomes more challenging. Now, organizations as a whole, to respond to this ever-changing and rapidly changing world that we're in, are striving to become more agile in a variety of different ways in their businesses. But from a project and portfolio management perspective, they're moving to the left in this diagram. We're in the green on the right-hand side. That more traditional project and portfolio management, that's more waterfall oriented, traditional governance type of capabilities is where we've been. And there's a need for some of that still. But some organizations have visions to transform all the way to the far left in the dark blue, where they want to go completely agile and do agile portfolio management and agile execution across the board. Now, that's fine, and some organizations get there, but it is a multi-year journey to make a transformation like that. And during that transformation, at a minimum, there's going to be a period in between this adaptive portfolio management stage where they're going to have a combination of agile and waterfall and other variations in the mix. Now, if they achieve full agile portfolio management, that may taper off and go away. But the analysts like Gartner and such are now finding that the vast majority of organizations, even on this transformation, find that they're going to end up in somewhat of an adaptive state perpetually as they move forward. Either way, we're going to talk today about how OnePlan can meet your needs in any of these scenarios, and it's equipped to do so very well. Now, because of all these different methodologies and these different approaches that people are taking, it has really spawned off a proliferation of the use of a variety of tools within organizations. This matrix that was actually from a client of ours, basically, if you look down the left-hand side and look at the capability areas or the functional areas, and you look at the departments across the top, a variety of things were being used there, including different scheduling tools, Excel, PowerPoints for just all reporting and that type of thing. But this is just indicative of the landscape that's out there, that people are using a variety of tool sets to get things done. And it's very disconnected in this state. It has silos of information, some pockets of information across the organization, and trying to harness it all becomes very challenging. So what's called an adaptive project and portfolio management state really has to incorporate a lot of different things. You have to bring together a variety of things. Maybe it's one or more portfolios. You might have a project portfolio, a program portfolio, a product portfolio, an IT service portfolio, an application portfolio. It could be a variety of those things. And there may be different tools to manage those types of things. And you have to support teams across the board, because you have many in large organizations, especially cross-functional projects, where we have participations across the board, across many different departments. And the key is the challenge of how do you integrate and bring these things together in a way that it's not chaotic, that it's not completely ad hoc, and not highly labor intensive to bring all that together. And the Gartner Group talks about adaptive project management, and the process we talk about isn't all that different, where there's got to be some type of demand and intake to onboard projects. We got to figure out what we want to do, this basic prioritization. We've got to kind of source the resources and plan it out, and then execute on it and progress report, and then have project and portfolio reporting to the organization. The difference with adaptive is it's multiple execution tools, varying needs in different parts of the enterprise, different execution methods like we talked about, and sometimes even supporting things like continuous delivery methods across all that. The key is that we let the organizations do the things that are most conducive to the types of work that they're doing, and use the tools that they need to do, but still meet the needs of the organization overall from a portfolio management perspective. So just to graphically talk about this, here we're looking at where teams execute how they need to, but leadership gets the visibility it wants. The scenario we're going to talk about today in this more, say, integrated fashion is using different tools and different methodologies. For example, organizations may have pockets that are using Azure DevOps for more iterative and agile. Some may be using Microsoft Project for more waterfall types of approaches, or a Jira in some pockets for iterative. Maybe some Microsoft Planner, or Azure, OnePlan itself has some tools in and of itself to do both waterfall and agile planning. But the key is that these teams may be using these tools, and leadership still needs to see and get the visibility and track the investments that they're making, and make decisions based upon the progress or lack thereof, or even based upon the things that are coming in that need to be considered to maybe be worked on in lieu of the things we're already working on, and roll those things up into programs or portfolios, or even align them with strategies and key results up at the top of the chain. Now, even if an organization is doing all agile work, and in this case, you could be using multiple tools. So we talked about a pocket maybe using Azure DevOps, a pocket maybe using Jira. Maybe they're using something like OnePlan to do that within there. But the idea is you still have to harness those different tools and inputs and bring them together into common portfolio visibility and reporting for leadership. So even in this case, there still might be a disconnect where the teams are using metrics for execution and things like burn-ups and burn-downs and velocity charts, et cetera, where leadership is still wanting to see at the portfolio level, maybe more language of the business, more financial information, more tracking on tangible outcomes and deliverables and benefits and things like that. The idea is we need to be able to provide what all these constituencies need at all stages of the initiative process. Then take that another step further. Outside of just coalescing all this data from a variety of different tools and methodologies, it's become more paramount than ever that organizations do strategic alignment with their project portfolios, meaning that what are the overarching strategies or the strategic plans of leadership? Where are they trying to take the organization directionally, and where do they want to go? And as we look at the projects or the potential projects we're considering, we need to, more than ever, determine whether or not it aligns with or helps leadership get to where they want to go with their strategies. Do we help further the cause for the organization as a whole, or are we working at things that are superfluous and maybe don't support that, or maybe even run counter to that, or maybe even work on things that are duplicative? The idea of strategic alignment now becomes important. Now, strategic portfolio management kind of takes that adaptive concept and takes it another step further. We're not going to delve into this in depth today, but you're factoring in more than just different methodologies and different execution tools. At this point, when you're considering what to work on or looking at the impacts or the things that need to be considered in your active initiatives, you need to have enterprise-wide strategy to execution alignment to make sure that we're working on the right things. But then we also need to align with and consider our business capabilities. For example, do they need to be updated and modernized to support our strategies and succeed with our initiatives? Do we have digital and physical products or assets like applications and other things that have to be considered, modified, or updated in order to succeed? And the idea is that they then in turn are aligned with the actual projects and the efforts that we have as well. The key is that leadership needs to set the direction. The IT and functional management, owns the critical assets that we depend on for success, and the execution teams have to deliver on those projects and initiatives. And these are all interrelated if we want to look at this in an effective fashion. So the importance of strategic portfolio management in today's business environment is that it's increasingly complex in our business environments, meaning that we have to align well with a lot of different things, and we have to manage risk across it all. There's a greater need for financial and resource optimization, because in these days, facing budget constraints and others, we have to identify and prioritize things and allocate resources to things that give us the best value and return on our investment. And then we need, data-driven decision-making, meaning we have to have at our fingertips the information we need to make informed decisions, both at the execution level and at the leadership level, so that leadership can redirect as needed on a timely basis while we can still have an effect. And then the adoption of Agile and other methodologies we talked about, and just emerging technologies and business models. In this age of digital transformation, leadership is tasked with the daunting task of finding new ways to do business, new ways to reach our customers, new ways to deliver. And these new opportunities and challenges not only have to be visioned for an organization, they then have to be executed on, which requires input and execution from all parts of the organization in order to be successful. This becomes even more important. So once again, this whole theme of integrated, not only integrated from a technology perspective, but integrated from an organizational and functional perspective. So OnePlan is really designed to also support not just the adaptive, but the strategic portions of this. Basically, business leaders have to put strategic plans together. They may have objectives and key results, or OKRs as they're called. Maybe value stream management is being done. Execution leaders are using a variety of different project execution approaches, adaptive, professional services automation, PSA, agile approaches, more product development approaches. And then the functional leaders who own the technology and the assets are dealing with things like our overall enterprise architecture, our business architecture, our application portfolio. All these things are interrelated and have to be factored in for us to achieve success in one way or another. And either we're doing it in a more purposeful way, or maybe more ad hoc and maybe not as effective. So OnePlan is designed to connect strategy to execution. In this particular diagram, we're looking at OnePlan at the top of the graphic in this kind of pyramid. And it's using a variety of different Microsoft-oriented tools in this view as inputs into that portfolio, whether it be their new project for the web, their traditional project professional for scheduling and planning, or maybe an Azure DevOps for more agile backlog and sprint planning that we want to bring into the mix. The idea is OnePlan is designed to take the inputs on the execution side from all these and have them be part of that portfolio management process. Now that is done by using our OneConnect capabilities within OnePlan. This allows us to use out-of-the-box connectors, productized connectors that are provided as a service, so that the tools that you're using in a variety of fashions can be fed into the PPM or portfolio management process. For example, up in the software development area, we've got, Azure DevOps and Jira and a variety of others that can be used to do agile execution and feed that into the OnePlan portfolio. There's the work management area at the bottom that has Planner and Project and from Microsoft and Smartsheet and Rike and Asana, the things that might feed in from an execution perspective into a portfolio. There may be ideation or input things that people might be doing some things and capturing requests and ideas and things like SharePoint or AHA. There might be financial information that's relevant to the portfolio information that needs to come in from the financial or ERP system like an Oracle, an SAP, a Dynamics, etc. There's service management systems that have work in them that may get elevated into projects, and we may have to have that data come in from, say, a ServiceNow or a Salesforce or a Dynamics. These are productized connectors that can make that happen and bring that into the OnePlan sphere. In a professional services model, CRM systems like Salesforce or Dynamics 365 CRM, that may be where the opportunities lie, that when the contracts close, those will become projects. And those types of connectors come in and feed that OnePlan portfolio as well. So there's a variety of tool sets here that can bring that into the mix and have it all coalesce and converge into a common hub within OnePlan. So as we look at this, OnePlan not only provides a hub of this information, it really provides a variety of capabilities for different roles in your process flow, in your project execution, in your portfolio management process. For example, on the intake side, there may be that initial strategy and that original strategic plan that leadership puts together, your OKRs. There may be from the general constituencies or maybe even your customers, internal and external, a place to put in ideas and requests that can be considered and vetted and promoted into potential projects should that be the case. And there may be an overall enterprise architecture piece where we have application portfolios or business capabilities or product portfolios, for example, where we have to figure out what we need or what's associated to the strategies or the ideas or the projects to be able to define and achieve success by being able to address the things that are needed. Now, once that happens, the portfolio managers, as we look at candidates to manage in an overall portfolio of initiatives, we have to have overall portfolio planning and visibility in a variety of different ways. It could be in a traditional portfolio view, more board views for more agile planning and things like program increment planning. It could even be in roadmap views. There's also resource capacity planning dimension. We can't just blindly commit to things without having the resources to execute on them and having constant visibility into the allocation, over allocation, under allocation of resources, helping us to be able to optimize the use of our resources and putting them on the right things is paramount. And then the financial aspect, be able to track in a detailed fashion the cost categories and the cost types, whether it be original budgets versus revised forecasts versus actuals of what we're spending, and even forecasting and tracking things like potential revenue and or cost savings or benefits. Those are things that are inherent in the OnePlan solution and bringing that all together. And the actuals, for example, come from another source like your financial system. Now, on the execution side, this is another place where bringing this stuff together from an integration perspective is important. So OnePlan does have the capabilities in and of itself to build work plans from a waterfall perspective or from an agile perspective, backlogs and sprint planning, etc. So it can do that right within and of itself. But we find many organizations are already pretty far down the road and committed to some other tools for these purposes. And the idea they still have portfolio management needs that these tools may not be addressing. So for example, in the work plan perspective, we might be using Microsoft Planner or Project for the Web or Project Desktop. We might be using Smartsheet, Asana, or Rike, or a variety of other tools that feed into that and into the OnePlan work plan that rolls up into that portfolio of information. The agile planning, the same thing. Whether it be Azure DevOps, Jira, or a variety of other tools, the key is that we can leverage what you've already done and, more importantly, the investment you've made in the thought process to the plans that are in there. Now, the team members in this have to feed into this process. And by feeding into this process, it's by, do we have to do time tracking and report time for capitalization or chargebacks or billing to other customers? Or just plain feedback on status and updates from a My Work area where all the things were assigned. Our team members can seamlessly feedback to the project or the project managers or the scrum masters exactly where we're at and what we've accomplished. So that goes through seamlessly as part of the process. And then from a delivery perspective, what the executives are looking for is status reports, for example, on individual initiatives in a consistent format that's a natural output, instead of us building these things manually each reporting period. There's dashboards that come out and things like Power BI with a variety of different perspectives that they can look at outside of just being in OnePlan, and then looking at the reports that are the net result of all the information that's in there. And not only that, because we talked about all the interrelations between projects and strategies and between enterprise architecture, business architecture elements, the interrelations and the associations, be able to visualize those easy and see what things are related and what can be impacted by our different entities here is important in helping us make decisions and also see where we stand. Now, on top of that, we're going to talk a little bit today at the end regarding artificial intelligence and how we can augment all this stuff to better decipher where we're at on these things, have suggestions on actions we should take, and even help us with some of the routine, data stuff that we need to deal with as well. So because we have this flexibility, OnePlan is also designed to support a variety of different things across the organization. There's projects and initiatives across all parts of an organization, whether it be the PMO, the project management office, the innovation or the transformation programs, whether it be your IT projects, your application or product development, professional services, sales and marketing has campaigns and initiatives, and even operations has things that are not just runtime things that they have to do in order for projects to keep themselves afloat. So the idea is OnePlan is designed to support you across all parts of the organization. Now, the integration piece, to focus on that a little bit more, OnePlan does have capabilities in and of itself to do these things with a waterfall scheduler and an agile planning capability that rolls up into the portfolio for program and portfolio management, investment approval, financial and capacity planning from a resource perspective. But you might also use other tools. You might use a Microsoft project for your waterfall scheduling and an Azure DevOps to feed into that, right, up into the portfolio level where OnePlan would own the portfolio level data. And then even with a Jira, same use cases with Azure DevOps, but people may be using that as their agile tool. And as I mentioned earlier on, a variety of agile tools can also feed in, and there's also agile-oriented portfolio management perspectives and board views, for example, for program increment planning that are available in OnePlan to allow us to manage the portfolio in a flexible set of ways as well. So what would that mean? Well, a lot of execution tools out there are really good at the execution level, but they don't have a lot natively in there to support true portfolio management across the board. So for example, OnePlan may on the left provide the portfolio level of information, and where they might connect and tie off might be, in this case, a commonplace may be at an epic level in an agile approach. And the idea is you might take intake in OnePlan, ideas in OnePlan. You might then flush that out and turn it into a potential project or epic over in OnePlan. And at that point, when you decide to do it, the connector capability of OneConnect could actually create an epic over in Azure DevOps or Jira, or connect to an existing epic, for example. And then the backlog management, the things that Azure DevOps and Jira are good at, those can be managed over there and they be fed from there over into OnePlan to be rolled up into the portfolio levels to let the people continue to work in the tool that makes sense for them, in this case, Jira and Azure DevOps. Once again, a seamless approach to making all that happen. Another concept here for productivity and effectiveness is the concept of minimizing task switching and switching in and out of different tools. Consequently, outside of just sharing data with other tool sets through OneConnect, OnePlan also has a fused UI strategy that allows you to stay working in the primary tools that you work in every day. For example, Microsoft has a very strong push into Power Platform and the Power Apps platform. OnePlan is actually designed to be consumed so that you can actually use it from within any of the Power Apps that you create within there, or templates that may be available to you in Power Apps. It's an authorized Microsoft Teams application. So if you're using your work and doing your collaborative and your work management in Teams, OnePlan is an authorized application that can be used within an individual team or channel, or just accessed from within teams in general. Azure DevOps. Not only do we share data with Azure DevOps, but you can actually use OnePlan from within Azure DevOps while you're working in Azure DevOps without having to leave. Same thing holds true with OnePlan in Dynamics and OnePlan in SharePoint. And also in the non-Microsoft sense, we do the same thing with Jira as well. Once again, trying to improve productivity and minimize task switching. So ultimately, we want to avoid costly and inefficient uses of time. So with this proliferation of tools and silos of information, we want to avoid that manual data crunching from multiple tools and having to mash all that up from different data sources. It's laborious and time consuming. Manual report creation and formatting each reporting period. We want to avoid that. Let's make this a natural output. Data re-entry, when we're using multiple tools, sometimes we're forced to put the same data in multiple places if we don't coalesce this stuff and bring it together in an integrated fashion. Integration is important here. Or if we don't have a direct pipeline integrated for team members to report status directly into the tool sets, to the projects, into the project managers and the scrum masters, chasing down team members for status and updates is also laborious. And then just packaging and distribution of reports, manual. Some people are still doing manual PowerPoints every reporting period in order to communicate where things are at. And just trying to overall track completeness and timeliness of submissions is something that, if you're not integrated, is something where you can be chasing your tail very often. So those are capabilities. Now, to help us and have an assistant, OnePlan has added into our core OnePlan offering. This is not an additional module. It's included as part of your core OnePlan solution is our AI as a collaborator, Sofia, or Sofia GPT. It's a revolutionary new language model for strategic portfolio and work management. It's based upon Azure OpenAI GPT, which is more controlled and contained, as opposed to the general OpenAI or ChatGPT that you find out there out on the internet. Provides more controls and security around that Microsoft provides via Azure. And it understands natural language requests or questions and responds in real time. And it helps us streamline the project and portfolio management planning and decision-making process. It also is trained to leverage OnePlan data itself. So not only just concepts around project and portfolio management that it can help us with, but also leveraging the data in OnePlan to help us make decisions or even augment the data that we have in there. So it has some use cases for data entry, information retrieval, communications, estimating, finding data anomalies, etc. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today. But some of the areas, and we're in our early iterations of this, and it's out in production. And areas that we're already helping people with is in the area of strategic planning, portfolio optimization, work management, risk assessment, resource allocation, and investment forecasting. And we're going to be continually adding capabilities of things and dimensions that we're going to use Sofia for to actually help project and portfolio managers and resource managers be more effective at doing their job. So with that, let's show you a little bit of OnePlan. So here, I'm looking at OnePlan in a browser, and I'm using it in Chrome today. And I'm looking at a portfolio of projects and epics in here. Now, a plan type that we call here project or epic is just here to donate different characteristics that we might have to denote maybe a more waterfallish effort or maybe a more agile type of effort. And on top of that, we might have plan types in a hierarchy that allow us to roll these things up as we showed you in the slides, roll these up into programs and or portfolios, etc. But in this flat view, for the purposes of this webinar today, and talking about the integration capabilities, what you'll notice over here in this list of projects, and you can drill into the details of this at any time, but in this list view, you'll notice that there's icons over on the left-hand side that denote that there is a connection to another tool that's feeding data into this particular project or epic. For example, in this first one here, I'm connected to Azure DevOps and actually into a team site. This one here, I'm connected to Project Professional. This one down here, I'm connected to Project Professional. Here, I'm connected to Project for the Web. I'm connected to Smartsheet in this particular case. A little farther down, I have some folks that are connected to Jira, for example. And you'll also notice that I have some that don't have any icons at all. denoting that the people managing this project have chosen to manage it just directly in OnePlan itself without connection to other tool sets. So in this particular case, we have a central portfolio that has a variety of different methods and or tools that are being used to execute and fed into this particular portfolio. Now, for example, if I drill into a particular project like this support customer using mobile project, you'll notice that there's details here that allow me to determine what data and metadata I want to capture about this. Some of it may be data I enter, like categorization of what type of project it is and who the manager or the sponsor is and that type of thing. And this is completely configurable. The life cycle or the stages or phases you might go through in a project to progress those. Business case data, maybe some objective data on where the project stands on things like financials and schedule and effort, or maybe a prioritization mechanism that derives a prioritization score based upon business drivers, etc. The idea is you can configure what data you capture around that. Now, in the work plan, in this particular case, for this particular project, it's the backlog that's connected. This more agile-oriented type of effort has a backlog that could have been created here in OnePlan, but in this case, it's actually being derived from a connection to Azure DevOps and to an epic in Azure DevOps. So as you can see, there's an active connection here. And if I wanted to go look at that, if I had access to that Azure DevOps plan, I can go directly to Azure DevOps, to that epic, look at the child pieces in here that we're connected to, but also not only is our OneConnect platform, which I'll show you in a second, basically handling the interchange of the data and bringing the backlog items and sprint information over from Azure DevOps over into that epic over in OnePlan, it's giving me access to additional capabilities in OnePlan that I might want to access. So for example here, I might come in and say, I want to go update my work. Maybe I do more work than is just in Azure DevOps. What if I'm assigned work in projects that aren't being managed in Azure DevOps in this adaptive world? I, as this resource here, Daniel Williams, I can actually go into and right from within Azure DevOps, I can access my work that will actually give me access to my tasks, issues and backlog items and other things across other things. For example, a plan that's being managed in Microsoft Project, I have an item here. I have some things here where I have issues and risks that I've been assigned that I have to status. The idea is that anything, not just things that I'm working on in Azure DevOps, I can access and status right from within here. And that holds true for things like resource planning, timesheets, portfolio views, etc. The idea is it's exchanging data and it's also providing that fused UI experience. Now, I will say this real quickly. These are productized connectors. And if I go look into, say, our OneConnect platform, if you have connectors enabled from OnePlan, you get a console that you can manage and monitor those connections. For example, you'll see I have a number of different connections going on here in this platform, in this demo environment I'm in. But let's just say, for example, I want to drill into a specific connector that is being driven here. I noticed that OnePlan is connected to Azure DevOps. It's leveraging service accounts or tokens, for example, to broker the permissions between those. But ultimately, the mappings that we're doing are all done through this console very easily. This is not a custom coded type of thing. This is a productized connector that allows us to do things like take the backlog items in Azure DevOps and select from any of the fields, both your fields and other ones that are available, and map those over to fields that are available over in OnePlan. And they can either be bi-directional or one-directional in either direction. And the idea is that you can establish those very quickly and then establish schedules so that it routinely will make those updates without the end user having to update that. They don't have to remember to synchronize. In this case, it might be set up to do an hourly sync such that without having to have any intervention by that Azure DevOps user or that OnePlan portfolio user, that connection and that synchronization will happen independent of that and provide that information. So the idea of this OneConnect platform allows us to do this in a productized fashion. Now, with us in here, not only do you have the backlog items, but you have the ability in one place to track your issues and your risks and your change requests. Or if you have a waterfall schedule that actually is going in conjunction with this backlog, in this particular project or epic, you could actually put that in place as well. Now, if I go back to the portfolio and I go down and look at something like a plan that was built in OnePlan, for example, if you have the connectors enabled from within OnePlan, and I go into a work plan, this work plan can be built in OnePlan from templates or from scratch. And let's just say I open this up, and if you'll notice that I actually have no connection here, but it's giving me the option of the enable connectors. Do I want to connect this to a project for the web plan, Project Professional, Smartsheet, Microsoft Planner? I have the option to do that if I want to in order to derive this plan. So I have options to do it either directly here in OnePlan or to do it from another tool set. And as you might see here, there's cases where I might have a Jira plan, and this particular Jira plan is connected. And if you'll look in here, you'll see that this particular Jira project has 3 issues or backlog items that it's connected to, and it's synchronizing those back over into OnePlan. The same thing holds true with, say, a Smartsheet. If you're using Smartsheet and you're in this CRM upgrade project, you can come over here and check what's going on over in the Smartsheet connection there and allow you to work with that as you see fit. So once again, an active connection, synchronizing the data over here from Smartsheet and giving us the ability to bring all that Smartsheet data from these projects to an individual project within that and synchronizing with this particular plan over in Smartsheet. So the possibilities, I could go on, but hopefully I demonstrated to you today the capabilities that we can end up with a holistic portfolio integrated with a variety of different sources. Now we can have a number of different views in here. So if we're looking at doing comprehensive project prioritization and a portfolio view around this, I can have different list views of this. I can also have board views of this, right? Where I want to look at this from more of an agile board perspective and potentially have backlogs that I bring in and work with it from a board perspective if I'm doing things like program increment planning. At any given point in time, being able to go and get those details that I showed you in the detail pages through a pop out of a quick edit view, just like you see over here on the right, at any given point in time to expand upon what's in the cards. And then roadmap views for the product-oriented folks out there. We can look at this from more roadmap view perspective and look at them in a variety of flexible ways. So once again, this integration capability is bringing all this stuff together and allowing us to work with it all in one place. Now, each of our projects has the ability for us to have resource plans and financial plans built into them. And what's nice about that is regardless of whether or not we're managing it in a project or Azure DevOps or Smartsheet, we can have a comprehensive resource plan that allows us to bring all this together and be able to look at, for example, Jack Barker, and why is he over allocated? It's because I have him on all these different projects. And I could be looking at this in terms of hours or FTEs. The FTE one tells me here that I've got him, booked for almost 4 times his bandwidth in May. Something I got to fix here with all the different things that he's working on. So the idea is I've got to be able to offload this and find some way, for example, to go in here and say, let me find some matches for Jack, right? And let me see if I can find some capabilities to, let me pick a plan and let me find candidates that might be able to replace Jack on that particular plan. And the idea is I can look at it in that regard and figure out if there are candidates who have the bandwidth. And it looks like maybe WoFat has the bandwidth to take on this workload out here. And I can actually select WoFat and actually replace Jack above there and do the resource balancing that I looked at. And once again, it doesn't matter that it's coming from another place or another execution tool. I have one central place to do the to do the resource planning. Same thing holds true with financials. If I come in here and I look at project summary, and I want to say, according to my intended portfolio that I'm looking at here, if I want to look at what the financial implications are in there, and does this portfolio fit within the budgets that I have, and be able to look at those things, I can look at the values, I can look at the dollars, and I can look and say, Is this something that fits within my thresholds of the dollars that I have, or do I need to deselect certain projects, or do I need to maybe move certain projects out in time and look at the reflected change down below here and see if it fits within what we're doing. So once again, bringing this all together from an integrated perspective. Now, don't really have time to go into these in depth today, but the idea that we have strategies and a strategic area where people can put together their strategic plans, their objectives and their key results, and track those in here as a strategic plan. We can also align these with our projects. And as we go through here and we say, let me look at this particular strategy and let me visualize how this is connected. And there are dependencies I have on other strategies there, as well as other interconnections, meaning the associations that I have from this particular objective has certain key results that are tangible measures of that strategy, which in turn are linked to other projects in Epic, some of them which are at risk because they're yellow. I can get to that data on the quick edit like I did before to look at the specifics around that project very quickly, as well as look at the products, the applications, and the business capabilities that I'm aligned with or associated with here as well. Once again, fulfilling that vision of bringing everything together into one place and to managing it holistically. So with that, I thought I'd go back and show you a couple things in the AI realm. So for example, we talked about portfolio optimization. We can help with data analysis of what's in your portfolio, prediction and forecasting, risk assessment, and portfolio optimization. An example of this would be, for example, ask it a question to provide a summary of portfolio data. And to streamline this, I just recorded a couple of these. So if I look at this, Sofia is down here in the lower right, and we can ask it a question. Please provide me with a summary of the data in my portfolio. And it is summarizing for us the key data points that we're looking at what state things are in, whether they're on track or not, budget implications, business units involved, etc. So it's giving me some good information and analysis there based upon this. And then I asked it which projects are the highest risk and explain why. And now it's looking at the prioritization score. It's looking at active issues. It's looking at what's late, etc., to support that, and giving us and saying that support customer using mobile is our highest risk project based upon those parameters. Once again, giving us good analysis. Which plans will allow me to maximize benefits while minimizing budget. So in a what-if scenario that I'm looking at, I might want to ask it to help me with the selection process and the selection criteria. So in this particular case, we're asking it which plans will allow me to maximize my benefits while minimizing my budget. And here it's looking at benefits versus budget and a benefits to budget ratio and ranking these plans according to that, which helped me to determine at a glance without having to decipher all that information which ones my best candidates might be. And then also asking a follow-on question, which projects should I cancel? So it's basically telling me the criteria to which I might use, and then telling me this project mobile timesheets, which is already on hold, is one that we might want to consider canceling, as well as a roster of other candidates that we might want to have there. Budget plan and optimization. We could look at things here to help us on the intake side of things. Same type of question. Which one should we select out of all these different candidates? We might do work management level stuff, for example. Help us with work plan creation. AI might do that. Sofia might help us with schedule risk assessment or schedule optimization. So if I come in here and say business case definition, given a project name and some characteristics that were put in the details page, I could ask it, help me define the business case for this and give me some ideas of appropriate parameters in there. So as it asks me for that question, we asked Sofia for that question, it's saying, please define the description, business case, and value statement for this particular project. And in that, it's going to give me some suggestions. Now, I'm not suggesting you always take it verbatim, but as far as saving you time from innovating this business case narrative from scratch. You could take what's there and keep what you agree with, and then even augment it with some of your own analysis. But notice here, it's actually doing the entire thing for me here in Sofia as we go through. Now, the other piece here that's pretty cool is being able to help build a project and project templates and the work elements that we might want in something like that. In this particular case, I can come in here and put a new project in. And then we're going to call it Smart Home Automation System. And in this particular case, we're going to go to the work plan, which is where we would build the schedule. And we're going to try to insert a template. Now, we have template libraries. You can have your own templates. You can have online templates and a variety of libraries of those. But you can also use your AI to say, what kind of schedule might you want to put in for a project of this type? And when we asked it that, it actually came up with a work breakdown structure that you would put in for a project home automation system, and even some resource types that you might need, and help us to map that over to resources in our resource pool. And then we leveraged that, and it created a schedule in OnePlan based upon what Sofia gave us as a work breakdown structure for that we can use as a starting point or as our template. And then we can modify things like our durations and all that type of thing, update the plan like we would with any template, and then possibly ask Sofia, once we have that in place, is rank the tasks by biggest risk and explain why. And now it's giving me some assessment here. It's basically saying me that it's a complex project. Some are high risk because there's some unknowns that are needed. Some it tells me that there's risk because we haven't quite defined fully the pieces that we need in there. But it's giving me an assessment of risk on these different elements within the project plan. Once again, assessment that would be difficult for me to do or time consuming for me to do on my own. Now, I would say this, as we go through here, we can optimize duration and cost is a question we could do. We could look at the risk identification and mitigation there as well. So we can help to use it to help identify potential risks and how to mitigate them. We could actually help with resource capacity planning as well. So we can help it with our overall resource allocation and capacity planning. We could actually help us with resource optimization and even predicting talent acquisition, like what we might need here in order to go through all this. So, given the time constraints, I'm not going to show each and every one of these. So ranking resources by highest risks and explain why, provide a sample resource plan for this particular shipping and delivery project by hours and month for this particular plan. It could actually give me a resource plan by asking it that based on the nature of the project and the parameters that have already been put in for this project. So what you'll see here is Sofia is now putting in a resource plan, time phase by month, saying which roles you're going to need on this, and even smart enough to know, for example, that your QA engineering is back-ended on this, your business analyst work is front-ended on this. So it's actually giving you that in a list of assumptions to help you with an initial resource plan. To optimize resource utilization, you could identify different bottlenecks and things like that to help you do that. Or we can even offer and ask questions like, what resources do I need to hire? For example, looking at the overall resource plan that you have and asking it a question like, what resources do I need to hire? It's basically telling me that I'm going to need these roles, and it's going to quantify for me the potential hires that I need. And it says we're going to ask it, how many do we need in those areas per role? And just very quickly, it's going to give me how many business analysts or developers I might need to hire, for example. And human resources, it looks like we're okay. Operations, none needed. IT project managers, we need a couple. So I think you get the point here that Sofia is designed to give us some additional information, and even on the investment forecasting, what are key insights from the financials? What are things that we can do to help write a project summary email to my manager about this project? If I look at this, it's kind of cool. Once again, in that idea of helping me write narrative without having to do it from scratch. I have the final say so on what I submit, but here I've asked it to write an email to my manager, and it's basically given me a email format with the narrative that I might put in for an update on the current state of this project. So once again, helping me, saving a lot of time and effort in doing the things that we want this to do. So once again, we're just at the early stages of Sofia and adding more and more capabilities all the time in each of our releases. So let's summarize and talk about some potential next steps. So what we talked about today is that traditional PPM approaches and solutions helped us improve as organizations for over many years. But there's an increased pace of change and a move to more agile approaches, and this has introduced more complexity into what we do on a day-to-day basis in project and portfolio management. The proliferation of software tools has resulted in fragmented silos of information within organizations, and there's also a compelling and increasing need for strategic alignment across organizations as we transform as organizations. It's become more important. Hence, better integration of systems and tools is needed, and we showed you some samples of that today. OnePlan integrates all your work and resources into a common hub so you can do the things that you need to do collectively and cohesively and comprehensively within the portfolio management solution. And teams can continue to work in the execution tools they need, but leadership still gets the visibility and the metrics they require to run the business. And Sofia GPT as an AI assistant for advanced analysis helps you automate a lot of things and provide additional insights that's more difficult for us to do individually without a lot of time-consuming analysis. So once again, the integrations and the addition of Sofia GPT and AI is really going to make us more effective over time. So OnePlan is passionate about this stuff. We are focused on project and portfolio management. You know, Microsoft has named us their global project and portfolio management partner of the year 3 of the last 4 years. We get recognized for our thought leadership by folks like Gartner and the Infotech Research Group. And we're just not a general systems integrator. We focus on these things on a daily basis. Now, you can also get free trials of the things we showed you here today. I highly recommend, if you're just looking at the adaptive without the strategic pieces of it or the enterprise architecture pieces, use the adaptive project portfolio management one to, get through and look at the adaptive template for having an adaptive solution. If you want to go full boat with the strategic portfolio management and look at the enterprise architecture elements that can be combined in this, definitely get the strategic portfolio management template. Now, we're happy to chaperone you through this trial. So you can do this on your own or enlist us to help you. We would love to engage with you and help you get the most out of your trial experience. You can get this directly from oneplan.ai/solutions or up on Microsoft App Source. Now, if you're not ready to do all that, but you want to understand more, we're happy to schedule a free roadmap workshop with you to review your current use of tools, look at where you're at and what your desired future state might be, and we can give you some guidance on what it would take to get you to where you'd like to be, and possibly the total cost of what that would be to do that. Given the fact that we leverage a lot of existing tools, you may already own a significant portion of what you need, and we might just be an incremental investment for you. Now, the free trial, we'd love to chaperone you. We'd love to assist you with a roadmap workshop. But if you're not even there yet, and you saw a very high level generalized demonstration today, if you want something more personalized to your use cases and your requirements, reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai, and we're happy to schedule a more personalized, targeted demonstration for you. Now, we have a lot of resources and information available on our website at www.oneplan.ai. You can go there if you just want to research this further. At this point, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time today. Our tagline is the power of one, is bringing all this thing together in one common hub, one common forum, with one source of the truth. And the idea is to bring that all together to make us more effective as organizations. Feel free to reach out to me. You'll get a copy of these slides. I'm at jpatterson@oneplan.ai. But we really would love to engage with you and help you take the ball the next step further and help you get more effective as an organization. Thank you, and have a great day.